My most growth was 4 years ago, definitely, when it was the year of 2020, and that was a bad year for everybody, obviously, but it wasn't because of COVID. There was a lot of personal tragedy that was going on in my life, and it was just one thing after the other.
Rolling back to this podcast and what we're doing with Youthful Ambition is we want to be able to get to know you a little bit, right? You've been, from the outside, from what we can see, a very successful entrepreneur, right? And you've done a lot of things, and having known people around your circle, we felt that you would be a really good subject to be able to inspire individuals, both men and women, in business, and being able to do that would be able to give us an idea a little bit about your story. How did your family's values and traditions shape your identity as an entrepreneur? Right, I know you grew up Italian, proud Italians.
Yes.
And tell me about how that plays in for you.
I think that's a great question, because it's, as you were explaining to me what this podcast is all about, it helps because I think it's important also for people to know, adults and young adults, as they are entering the business world. We are in the restaurant business, and I did not create either restaurant from scratch, right? But because I didn't does not mean that I'm not an entrepreneur, and going back to your question, being raised in an Italian family, immigrant family. They came from southern Italy, from Calabria. My dad came here when he was 13 years old and was an extremely hard worker. And he's, the true definition of the American dream. So because he is that way, he always instilled in us that you have to work hard, you have to be ambitious, you have to always want more, always want to do better, always want to be better. So when I started working in the industry, as a very, very young girl, I never said to myself, oh, well, my father started this industry, so I'm just going to be, complacent and just comfortable and not try harder. So I guess because of my family values, it was always really important to me, even from when I really got involved around 19 years old, 20 years old. How can I make this business grow? How can I make it better? How can I make it more? How can I branch off and do other things and kind of just create a empire, and take something that was small and make it much larger? And that's definitely, I attribute that to my upbringing. So it's a very good question, because there is, I think, especially this new world that we live in, like the younger generation, they don't have that fire in them and that passion and that drive. And it really does stem from, like you said, an upbringing and having immigrant parents where they're taught to, that's all they knew, and their only choice was to work. And now that's instilled in myself.
Okay. Yeah, and you figure around 19 was when in your mind that solidified to go in this path, in this direction?
Yeah.
Or do you feel like this was just how the path was laid out for me? I had no choice either.
No. So, and that's another important thing, because, some people do find themselves, they're in a family business and they feel that they have no choice. And I think that's where there's like a large difference between a child who's going to take their family business and just kind of exist, and then a child who's going to take the family business and make it grow. The large difference would be your passion. And if it's a family business that you fell upon that you actually do enjoy, and that was me. So I started, even younger than 19, but around 19 is when I always had a passion for hospitality. Okay. So around 19 was when I really just said to myself, this is what I want to do. And I don't want to just be an employee. I want to be a partner. I want to create more. And then that's when we started Il Bacco Events. Okay. And I started that from scratch with our other manager at the time. And then through the years, I kind of took that and brought it to another level, and kind of we do things now that we never thought we would do, all the different sorts of weddings that we do. And I got really into fundraising and political events, and we became a hub for so many different types of people and types of events and sharing their special occasions. And yeah, it really it comes down to having the passion for it and not. And fortunately for myself, I did have the passion, and I still do have the passion, which is why I'm in the position that I'm in.
Good. So, well, your dad and your mom was involved in this as well, or just mostly your dad?
My father.
Mostly your father.
Yeah.
So you would consider him the mentor in your space, and
my father, for sure. He taught me really everything. He taught me everything that I know as far as business goes, and also just how to communicate with people. I think being successful, a large part of being successful is understanding people, understanding how to communicate with people. I mean, it's a skill. You're not just, you can't go to college and be taught how to communicate with other individuals. Right. And it's not simple. There's so many different people, so many different personalities, so many things that can go wrong, how to handle them, how not to handle them, and how you speak to someone really just kind of like, I guess, creates the path. And my father has taught me pretty much all of that from a very young age.
That's a lot to learn, and I
it's a lot to learn, and it takes time, and it's just, and that's, now I have my own team, and I try to teach them through example the best way that I can, how to communicate with someone when you're speaking on the phone with someone, when you're in hospitality, if you're hosting someone's event, even if you want to create a new business and branch off, how to go about that. Another huge thing for being an entrepreneur or running a business, running employees, is problem solving, right? You need to understand how to problem solve. You need to and then you also need to understand how to speak to your employees. Right. There's like a certain dynamic behind it, and it can kind of make or break a business.
Tell me a little bit about that. And because, it's like I watch the TV shows, what is it? That Chicago one with the name slips me right now. It's on Hulu with a gentleman from...
is it The Bear?
The Bear.
Yeah, I actually haven't watched it. Everyone tells me that I need to watch it, but I just haven't had the time. Right. But I do plan on watching it. He's the Lip from Shameless. That actor.
Shameless, yeah. One of my favorite shows too.
Yeah, it's great.
And so my stepson he's half Russian, half Spanish, and he went into culinary school, to New York Culinary Institute, I believe it is, and I think it's since closed now. And then went out to Vegas and worked at the Venetian, and now he's in the Carolinas at this country club, and he runs their restaurants there. Wow. And he does all these special things, and just really good at what he does. But the one thing I noticed was that he moved from restaurant to restaurant to restaurant, and it was a lot to do with the culture, or how people treated him versus, work ethic and all these other things. And then I see The Bear, and I'm like, it seems like such a harsh environment, things going. Would you say that type of culture in this space, is that typical? It seems very harsh in industry. And, how do you cultivate your culture? How do you keep your guys motivated, keep them, enjoying what they do?
Well, first and foremost, it is a very, very harsh environment, especially because the two restaurants that we have are Italian, and it's typically a male environment, right? There are female employees, but for the most part, it's a male environment. And you're dealing with very stubborn, aggressive, opinionated men. And especially when it comes to chefs, they are, in a sense, artists, right? So they feel very insulted if you don't like what they produce. And that's like it's kind of a very interesting dynamic. And that's how from my knowledge, most chefs are. They put out a dish and they think it's amazing, and you taste it and you kind of critique it a little bit. They don't like it very much.
Like that very much.
It's also, depending, every restaurant is different. Both restaurants that we have, El Baco and Trattoria 35, they're both very quick, fast-paced, high-volume restaurants. Like you said, turnover. There's not a lot of time for BS, so to speak. Like, it's just, the customer comes in, you got to get it going, got to turn it over. Every day is a little bit crazy, and it is chaotic. But yeah, I mean, you have to know how to, I think what I've learned, and I wasn't always like this. When I was in my 20s, I guess I thought that you have to lead with an iron fist, and I thought that was the right way to go about things. And then you start realizing that you, as a boss, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, you need to remain calm at all times. When things go south, or a situation approaches and it's not a good one, and it's your job to figure it out, you must stay calm, because then your employee stays calm. If the employer is not calm, the employee is definitely not going to be calm, and then nobody's calm. Right. And you have to kind of learn, but that really only comes with experience, right? Like trial and tribulation. I've been in so many situations where things were not working out well.
Is there any one particular one that you can point out where you felt like this was the turn point that I have to change how I operate?
Yeah, I would say, one specific example that just kind of pops out to me is Mother's Day during COVID. We were utilizing our rooftop at El Vaco as a dining room, but we were still allowed, it was when we were allowed like certain percentages in the indoor dining. So my brother and I had decided to, we kind of need to like bring in as much business as possible, because the restaurants were hurting very much so with everything that was going on with indoor dining. And we decided to open up the roof and the first floor.
Okay.
Now, everything was coming out of one kitchen, and it was a good idea in the grand scheme of things. It wasn't, and that's also being an entrepreneur. You have to accept that not every decision you make is the best decision, right? So that was a poor decision on my part. It wasn't, and I will, openly say it. It was not executed properly. And when I tell you it was a disaster of a Mother's Day, it was a disaster of a Mother's Day. And I just will never forget it. And I was like, you have to stay calm. I mean, it was really one of the days in the business that stands out to me. But yeah, things go sour, and you have to have composure. And I mean, tomorrow's a new day.
Tomorrow's a new day.
Tomorrow's a new day. It's like, I need today to be over, and tomorrow is a new day. And it never happens again, and you can make a mistake once, but you cannot make it twice.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay, I hear that. Right.
At least you try not to make it twice.
How would you say, what kind of sacrifices, and I remember COVID, that really was a time that did try businesses, especially restaurants. What kind of sacrifices have you had to make to be able to be where you are? Do you feel like there were any sacrifices that you had to give up? Whether it's time, whether it's something else that you wanted to do in life, but you felt driven to this space. Any kind of sacrifices?
I do believe there have been sacrifices. And as I said before, I was fortunate enough that my family business is my passion, right? But you get entrenched and involved in your family business, and it's a very interesting dynamic, because every family has a dynamic, right? Every household has a dynamic. But when you are going to work every day and you're trying to make money, you're trying to be successful, you're trying to make sure it's successful for yourself and your family and all of your employees and their families. And then you bring that dynamic with your family into the workspace. It's very hard to separate the two. So have there been times where, yeah, I do feel like I could have set off and done something else? Like that alone is, we've all made sacrifices to stay with each other, and that in and of itself is a big sacrifice. I believe so. Another sacrifice would be, like you had just mentioned, would be time. In this industry, it's weekends, it's holidays, it's late nights. That's why I know so many people that their family business is catering or events, hospitality of some sort, restaurants, and they have children, and the children are like, I'm not getting involved in that. I'm not going to do that because I want a wife and kids or a husband and kids, and I'm not going to be working weekends. I'm not going to be working late nights. I don't want, I never, even if I'm not in work, in the building or in my office, it's pretty much like I work 24/7. My phone is always going off. It doesn't ever shut off. It's not, you take away a couple of days, you take off a couple of days and you want to go clear your head and you want to go on vacation somewhere and go to an island. The phone is still ringing, and that's the sacrifice you make being in a family business and B, in this type of business. So yeah, I do feel it does feel that there have been sacrifices, but it's very rewarding, right? So it makes it all fine and good and well in the end. But yes, for sure.
Who do you surround yourself with? So I know you obviously family, because you have a family business and you have a brother and your dad and so forth, your mom. But who else surrounds Tina that might be on the outside of this? Like, who do you surround yourself with?
Just in my personal life?
Yeah.
So I am very big on surrounding myself with family. I do have many friends, but I've also, or mostly, always surrounded myself with people that tend to be a little bit older than me, and always business professionals. I feel I've always loved lots of my friends who's in finance, who's an attorney, who's an accountant. I feel that those are the type of people that I just continuously are learning from, because it's so different than what I'm used to, and I really love to be around those type of people. And I think that's really a great question too, because it's who you surround yourself with tells you who you are. Tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. Yes. And it's very, very true. And I've always gravitated and been attracted to individuals that are in the business world in Manhattan, that hustle and bustle approach to life. And it's so interesting feeding off of each other, because then you realize, oh wait, well, I do this and you do this, but it's kind of the same. I was actually speaking to someone yesterday who's in finance, and I said, what I like just today, which was yesterday, just today was just crazy. And it's like being in the stock market for events. It's nuts. Who has the day fighting in the office? Like, this person wants this, and you grow from, for me specifically, I've grown from surrounding myself with people like that.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I tend to hang around individuals a little bit older than I am, because they always have some sort of wisdom to teach. In so many ways. You don't get to do vacations much, I'm assuming, right?
Get to what?
Do vacations and like, what do you do for your downtime, and how often do you get something like that?
So where I am right now in my life, it has changed my position in the business. I worked very, very, very hard to get it to this position. It's also, when you're in this type of business, you have to be mindful of being a woman. A woman wants family time. I don't have a family, but hopefully soon. And a woman wants family time. And it's different. It's harder for a woman to always be working evenings and weekends and holidays. Right. Unfortunately, it just is the way it is, And I have put myself in a position where I now oversee everything. And it's interesting. There's a large part of it that was a little bit easier when I was just coming in more as an employee.
Right.
Right. And then once you transition over to being an entrepreneur and creating a larger business and having more responsibilities, people will say, oh, you're not physically there as much, but you actually are working more and more stressed out.
Oh, yeah.
It's very interesting. So, but I do get my nights. What I do, it's funny, but what I love to do for fun is go eat at a restaurant. So I was joking with someone the other week. I said, I think I'm going to start calculating exactly how much time of my life is spent in a dining room, because my office is in the restaurant, right? So if I'm in the office, I'm in a restaurant. When I eat at work, I'm in a restaurant. And then my favorite thing to do is go to a restaurant. So when I leave work, I dine out. So I wonder really, if I put it together like yearly, like annually, how many days out of a year am I in a restaurant? But I do that. And honestly, I love nothing more than just to stay home sometimes, because I am speaking to so many people in one day. And not only am I speaking to people for work, people that I have to actually do business with, whether it's a customer, a client, a vendor, whatever the case is. On top of it, I'll come up from my office sometimes and there's like 100 people in the dining room, and then they all want to talk and say hello. And it is very, very exhausting. You have to be, and I'll be in my office sometimes for like 7 hours nonstop. And then I leave and I have to, talk to everybody about how's their children, how's their wife, how's their husband, how's their life, how's everything going, how's their business. I
remember everyone's life backstory because you met them last week, right?
Exactly. And it is very exhausting. So definitely something that I love to do is just stay home and not talk to anybody. And be quiet. It's something I'm trying to get into, actually, meditation.
Right.
But I have not been able to yet. I think that's something that comes with time and lots of wisdom, to be able to like shut down and shut off. I just will openly say I'm not there yet.
Not yet. And that's an honest answer. I hope
to be there in time, but I'm not. Mentally, I'm not there yet to be able to leave what I do every day and then just shut off.
I understand that. I'm in the same space. Me, my producers, we're always creating, and what do we create next, and that type of thing. Or you're writing stories, and so I totally get it. Different arena, but the mental never stops. Even when you're sleeping, you're dreaming about work. Yeah. In that sense. Yeah. And how do you balance that with you're married now, right? Yeah. How long have you been married?
A year.
A year. Wow, it felt longer. Okay. Okay. How's your husband? Like, how's he feel about all of this and stuff, right? Because he was from the outside of. He's not Italian, right? Is he?
Italian, yes.
He is Italian.
Yeah.
But how's he feel? Is he also in business? Or?
Yes, he's in business. He's in finance.
Finance. Okay.
Yes. So, which I guess makes sense why I.
Right.
Gravitate towards those type of people. But you just need to find someone that it's a partnership, and that you are understanding of each other's schedules, and you are understanding that you both have busy lives. And if you're with someone that appreciates that in you, that's okay, and it's really beautiful to have someone to bounce ideas off of. And, there's things he can teach me, and there's things that I can teach him, because we do such different things. Right. And you just have to be with someone that's really there for you, that's not going to be upset if you say you're coming home at one time and maybe you're running a little bit late, or you have to cancel a dinner with friends sometimes because there's a work dinner that you need to go to. Right. And just kind of do it together and grow together and be there for one another as best you can be.
Growing, yeah. And being able to grow at the same time as well. Sometimes, that's a thing that I tend to see is if someone outgrows someone in a particular area, then then that creates separation. But it seems like you guys have the ability to be able to grow together.
Yes.
And
it really is very, very important.
So, yeah. Where would you say? We all have vulnerabilities in all that we do. What would you say would be like your vulnerability, and how do you cope with that? And it could be in any arena, but I'm looking at a broad stroke here.
My vulnerability would be going back to what I had just said, but it is very difficult to be in an industry where you are the face and you always just have to be on. And I think for me, it's something I've always struggled with. I mean, no one would ever know. And I would never show that because that's not my personality to do so. Don't want to show the vulnerability.
Right.
But when I get a chance to myself here and there and throughout a day, or when I do get home, it is very difficult to always be viewed as someone that just always has it together.
Right.
And it's hard, from the way you look and the way you're dressed and how your personality is, if you're having a bad day, if you're performing, if you're doing a good job. And that to me has always been something that's very difficult. And also just this idea that I have that if I'm not working, I'm not
progressing.
Yeah, I'm not exactly like I'm not progressing. That's just took it out of my mouth. And that is really something that has always been challenging for me. Like this idea instilled in me that in order to be successful or in order to do good, you need to constantly be on and constantly be working and constantly be running all over the place. And I'm learning as I'm like in my mid 30s, I'm just learning that if you need a day, take a day. If you need a moment, take a moment, and that's it. And it's really, it's more important, I believe, to be successful is when you do that. Because then you're just kind of overworking yourself, and then you're not being yourself. You're not being the best to your ability. And it's okay. I mean, my father would highly disagree with what I'm saying right now. That old school mentality. Like, what are you talking about? Stop being dramatic. But it is challenging to always have to be happy and smiling and everything's great.
Yeah, that is tough to carry, and I commend you on that because it is that business where that face all the time, and it's like, what if you're having a bad day and you just don't feel like talking to anyone? You just don't feel like being there, But it seems like you have a good support system behind that. If you weren't in this business, let's just say you decided not to follow in that path, what other path would you have chosen for a career for yourself? Or was that never ever a thought?
People ask me this all the time. I mean, I always kind of wanted to be in the hotel industry.
Okay.
So still
hospitality.
So hotel industry was something I always was interested in, but who knows, maybe it can be one day to get into the hotel industry. I do for some reason think that it may happen down the line in my life. And then I would say, I've always thought about being in like a publicist, marketing, working for a firm, something like that, more in the corporate world,
Right.
Yeah.
In a way, you kind of do a little bit of that within this business.
It is funny because, yes, I do a little bit of that. So
it's sort of like you can't get away.
Yeah. And I think that's why I have created, what I do every day is different than what most people in my position do. And I think it's because I have kind of just structured it that way. I enjoy the marketing aspect, the publicity aspect, hosting different events, being involved in different organizations that I'm involved in. Just, it doesn't always have to be just about a restaurant. It's not just what makes you successful. It's kind of doing a little bit of everything in the industry to
Inside.
me what makes you successful.
And one day you feel that maybe in the hotel business that would be something that's like down the road for you.
Yeah, I mean, I
next
would,
couple
I would
years.
love to. Yeah, I would love to, but we'll see.
Okay. All right. What personal habit or practice that has drastically changed your perspective on life? Like one personal habit that you have
Walking.
that changed. Walking. Good. You walk. Is that a good time for you to think? Is that
Yeah,
one of those
I
things?
walk. I wake up in the morning and I just walk right out of my house and I just keep walking, and it just helps me. It really, really does. Being healthy, not drinking, so
Mhm.
alcohol is just not good, and lowering my drinking, and I just love to walk, and it really just opens my mind, clears my mind. It just things are less foggy after I go for a long walk.
Ready to go for a walk. Yeah, it's like I was going to ask you, it's like, how do you go and like work out and stuff? Because you look as though you keep yourself well together, and it's like, when do you find time to do that?
Yeah,
So the walking,
only in the early morning.
early in the morning,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, gotcha. What hidden talent do you possess that most people wouldn't expect?
I mean, a hidden talent. I mean, I don't know if this is considered a talent, but I'm a phenomenal skier. Considered a talent, it's more athleticism, but I'm a very, very good skier, and I love to write poetry.
I write poetry.
Yeah.
I see. I wouldn't expect you to.
Yeah.
And that's it. You have to come up to. I do a lot of things up in the Upper Peninsula in Ironwood, Michigan. They have the highest ski flying jump, and they're just about to rebuild it.
Oh, wow.
And you could actually see Canada from up there.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
In the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So if you ever decide that, they have a lot of chalets up there.
Yeah.
But if you ever decide to come up there, let me know. And
Beautiful. I've never
I know a
seen
lot
that
of folks
either.
up in the Upper Peninsula.
Very
So,
nice.
what is a question you wish more people would ask you, and how would you answer it?
In business?
In general, it could be in anything. It doesn't have to be in business. It could be in personal. It could be anything.
What?
One question.
How are you actually doing?
Yeah. How are you actually doing? And answer it too. How are you actually doing?
Sometimes I'm okay, and sometimes I'm not.
It's a basic.
It's a basic, yeah. Like to just be asked, "How are you doing?"
And actually genuinely want
and
to
actually
know.
genuinely mean it.
Yes.
And I know that may sound a little bit silly, but
It's not.
yeah, being in this industry, your conversations with people just become so robotic, right? And working and communicating with so many people every day, it's just constantly like, how are you? Like, but nobody really cares how you are, right?
Yes.
They just
yes.
don't.
No, I agree.
I have, not so much now, because I'm not in the dining room as much as I used to be. But in my 20s, when I was in the dining room every night of my life, it was just constantly like, so how are you doing? You good? And it was just never genuine, right? It's just like, it's just part of a nonsense conversation.
Right.
And for someone to just genuinely be like, how are you doing? And I feel like it's actually just so rare, more rare than probably people even realize.
Yeah. I think that's a really good answer.
Thank you.
And I
I mean, it's just the
100%
simplest, but it's the
agree
truth.
with that. And I sometimes I think that maybe because they don't really want to know, because you may be like, well, my cat died and my dog is on his deathbed, and I just discovered that, so, and then they got to deal with it, right? So sometimes I wonder, because I've had similar thoughts in the sense of that, it's like, people never really ask and really mean it.
Really mean it.
So, yeah.
So it's interesting. So when I am in the office, if I get a phone call, okay, and this is something that I started doing a long time ago because of how much it bothers me that people ask you how you are and don't genuinely mean it. So if a customer calls the restaurant and my receptionist answers, calls me down to my office, tina-mria, line 1 is for you. Okay, I answer the phone. Hello? Hi, this is tina-mria. Hi, tina-mria, this is such and such. How are you doing? my response will be, good, thank you. How can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Because you don't mean it.
Right.
And I'm going to ask you, how are you? And I don't mean it.
Right.
So let's just get to the point of what we're having a conversation about.
Right. Yes. Yes.
And I will always say, good, thank you. How can I help you?
Right.
Because it's just how I feel about it.
It depends on who's coming from, right?
Of course,
So,
who it's coming from,
yeah.
definitely. But for the most part, it's just, how can I help you? And that's
Right.
and let's get on with
And then get on
how we're going to help each other today.
Yes. If you were to write a book about your life, what would the title be?
Oh, God. That's so funny. I was actually thinking about this. This isn't about my life, though, but I was speaking to someone not too long ago and saying how I would love to write a book one day about what really goes on in a restaurant. Like what really happens, like behind the scenes with customers and late nights and employees, and what that like nitty gritty aspect of it is like. And I don't mean, in the kitchen serving food. I just mean the behind the scenes, what happens.
Keeps the machine rolling. Okay.
Yeah. The title of it, I'm like drawing a blank, but it was like something like, I don't even know.
Maybe you should write it one day.
Yeah, I've always wanted to. I've been thinking about it. I will one day. Yeah.
Okay. If you could have a conversation with your future self, what would you ask?
With
What would
my
you ask?
future self.
Yeah, with your future self.
Okay. I mean, first thing that comes to my mind is, are you happy? Right?
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to my mind. But I mean, I would hope and pray, and I think it will be that my future self will be an even more successful version of myself right now. And kind of just, so how did you do it?
Yeah. Well, what would you think? Let's just say this is your future self right now, and then you look back. Where do you feel like you had your most growth personally? And
My most growth was 4 years ago.
Mhm.
Definitely. When it was the year of 2020, and that was a bad year for everybody, obviously, but it wasn't because of COVID. There was a lot of personal tragedy that was going on in my life, and it was just one thing after the other. And because of what was happening, there was no option but to take charge.
Mhm.
Right? And when you're just thrown into the fire, to actually, for me, when you just evolve and grow the most. And I had no choice but to step up in the highest way you could possibly step up and take over. And, it leads, like I was saying before, to a lot of responsibilities.
Mhm.
But when there's no choice, there's no choice. And I definitely have grown so much for the better since then.
Is this around the accident time?
Yeah.
Dad had the accident.
Yeah, the accident, and then
Lost
our partner here passed away, and it was just, I remember my father's accident was in October, so he was gone, and it was just my brother and I, and you have to do what you have to do, and you have to put on that face. And that's why I say that's the most vulnerable part of the industry, because you have to, no matter what, be okay. And we were not able to crumble and fall, because if we crumble and fall, what are they all going to think?
Yes.
And then shortly after that, unfortunately, our partner here in this restaurant, so I had just became a partner, and it was me, my father, and our partner, Michael. And 6 weeks after my dad's accident, unfortunately, Michael had passed away.
Oh.
And I remember that morning waking up and finding out the news that Michael had died. I just said to myself, you don't even have time right now. Your father's very, very unwell, and he's not at El Baco. Michael is now passed on. Nobody is at Trattoria. So you have no choice but to go and just step up. And I had to host a staff meeting like the day after he passed, and it was just me. So now here I am, a 30-year-old girl, like these 30-year-old young lady, and it's just these 2 restaurants, and everyone's looking at me like, is she going to keep it together? Is she going to, it's 120 employees between the 2, and it's like, is she going to keep it together? And the option is there was no option, so it's yes, she's going to keep it together.
Well, I knew you were dealing with a lot at that time, so I remember us texting back and forth, because my dad had an airplane accident as well, and and remember conversing back. I didn't know that you were also dealing with that too. I never thought about that, that sense. But see, people are always carrying a cross, sometimes a bigger cross than you think that they're carrying.
They lead on. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. If you can choose to master any skill instantly, what would it be and why?
Singing.
Singing? Yeah. You want me to sing?
I always wanted to sing.
Yeah. You sing in the shower?
Singing. But a real skill is, I don't even know if it's a skill, but just something. I wish I was just better at computers and making spreadsheets and
things that can make your life a little bit easier.
Yeah, I'm just so bad at it. It's like I could do it on pen and paper, but then you give me a computer and you show me an Excel, and I'm just like, I got to get someone to do this for me.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap it up pretty soon because we only have a few minutes, and I know you got a busy schedule. Clover, the lady I'd interviewed, her question forward was, and I don't know if you're religious or not, but was that if you believed in reincarnation, and if you did, who would you want to come back as, whether it's an animal or as a human being in some sort? Who would you want to come back as?
Oh. That's such a good question. That's such a hard question.
I know, we don't really think about it.
Right, I don't think I've ever thought about that. That's who would I want to come back as?
Or if we came back as an animal,
I mean, if I came back as an animal, it would be a lion.
A lion?
I love lions. I think they're so interesting. The king of the jungle, the way they pray, the way they take care of their territory. I'm fascinated. And as I just thought about it, but as a person, I have always loved Princess Diana. I mean, she had a sad ending, so I wouldn't want that for myself. And she was very misunderstood, and I've read books on her and watched so many documentaries on her, but I think she was just such a brave, bold woman. I really do. And a very loved woman and respected woman, and she's just always been one of my idols, is Princess Diana.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tina, for doing this here, and I appreciate you doing it, and I hope that we can do another one at some other time. Maybe we'll have a little bit more time, and we can go into other things and do that. But I've always, from the outside, watched and admired all that you've been doing, and just seeing you progress and do all of this is incredible.
Yeah, thank you. This restaurant specifically has it's evolved, and it was getting involved in this restaurant was also a period of growth and a challenging time for me. It's not easy being called 2 different places, and there's just always so much going on. But I do love it, and I'm happy that I did it, and it's come a very, very long way. So
good.
Yeah,
good.
Thank you.
Well, we're gonna check back in on you down the road and see. Maybe by then you'll have a hotel and all the other things. So
and sauce.
And sauce.